Hello people, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is Sorin and today we're going to talk about the TS-54, a vehicle that is really pay to win inside the game. It's the brand new addition to the game. It came with What Plus. What is What Plus? Well, you have a button over here where you can activate a subscription for 30 days that for the price of £7, €80 or $9, you can get yourself the TS-54. That is a really good tier 8 premium tank from America that has the ability to use any kind of crew from America without any penalty, which means you can train your artillery crew, you can train your light tank crew, you can train your tank destroyer or medium tank without any penalty, which for some artillery players that might is like if you have the French, you have the left at tier 5 that is a premium tank which you can train your artillery crew. You can put the sexton for the British, but for America you don't have artillery piece yet, so this vehicle can be a right vehicle to buy if you want to do that, but yeah, that's not the main focus of What Plus. You have, of course, the What Reserve, which is pretty much the same amount of money you spend on What Plus if you'll be to buy the gold with these kind of bundles. So pretty much like 40 lei for or 8 euros for 2000 gold. So it's pretty much the same amount of money you spent for the What Plus. So you get yourself the extra tank, the extra demounting, the extra map, and I think the free experience or something like that. But the TS-54, it's a vehicle that is kind of similar in that kind of regards to the old King Tiger, but I think King Tiger was really bad. You had to buy Amazon Prime, I think, to get this vehicle. So yeah, pretty much now we're going to a better monetization or a rental vehicle that you can, you have to pay it. So yeah, how does the vehicle perform in terms of firepower? Well, we're gonna jump on Tank GG, and we're gonna compare this vehicle to a Tech Drift tank, which if you don't know how to play double barrels, we can unlock the IS-2, and it's pretty much kind of the same feeling of the gun, but the TS is much better. Or the 7032, which is a premium tank, which is really competitive, and I feel like everyone is doing very good in this vehicle. And on top of that, it was really pay to win once again because you had to gamble in the loot boxes to buy it. So DPM is really good at 2336 base. The penetration is kind of lackluster, but I think it's a balancing factor of 218, which is more like it's like more about the tanks in this comparison, which is not like 233 as you get on some mediums or another high penetration like 237 or how much you got on the lowest. So it's kind of good, it's balanced. In terms of the APCR, you have 252 penetration with APCR, which is not the most. I mean, once again, it's balanced. You're gonna struggle to penetrate tanks which have good armor. So yeah, in terms of the ammunition, is not really shining this vehicle. 280 damage per pop, which means you can double barrel for 560, which is kind of decent and respectable. On top of that, your reload is 7.2 seconds, which means if you manage to miss a double, you have pretty much like a 10 second, I think is the 3 seconds is the lockout after you double fire. So you're gonna be vulnerable for 10 seconds, but it's nowhere as close as 15 seconds that you have on the 7032, which is once again really flexible, if I can say, in that kind of regards. The caliber is 94 millimeters, so you don't really expect to overmatch anything. The shell velocity is pretty meh. It's not really to write home about. It's not really compared as the 703 that has APCRs on standard rounds that are really good for long distances and so on and so forth. Ammo capacity is 40, which mean, well, you can carry pretty much like one or two HE clips, which well, probably you might take if you, I don't know, you're facing like artillery pieces and then or something like that. But yeah, the ammo capacity is not the highest, which means your potential damage is around 11k, which is not the most. Consider you want to, you want to fire a lot, you want to take your chances because your real is so low. So Yeah, in terms of firepower, this vehicle is really good DPM, and obviously you take advantages of that double barrel and short reload time. But keep in mind to load the gun, actually to switch to the next gun, is taking you 5 seconds, which is a lot. For 5 seconds, you are vulnerable to the enemies, and I don't know. I think it's a balancing factor as well from that kind of perspective. And on top of that, if you want to fire a double, the preparation time is 2 seconds instead of 3 seconds that those vehicle have, the Russian vehicle has, which is much better for not giving your enemies a time to react, to angle that armor, to give you that slight, to give their still a slight advantage to ricochet the shells off. So yeah, in terms of gun handling, this vehicle hits so much better than a 732 and much better than the IS-2. The dispersion is kind of lackluster for this kind of caliber, but it's good, it's balanced. You don't want this vehicle to snipe across the map, even like the turret is really good, and you don't want to be reliable at longer distances, so kind of want to play closer. But once again, with good crew, you're going to get to 0.3233 or something like that, which is once again really good. Um, Dispersion while moving, turning the turret are really, really nice. I mean, only if you want, you can use vertical stabilize, but on 7032, I really don't recommend with this kind of, because the vehicle has really good stabilization. This one is arguable, and IS-22 is at a point when you really need vertical stabilizer to make yourself comfortable when fighting. So you can argue you can put vertical stabilizer and so on, which are gonna talk on the loadout crew. So in terms of the flexible and ridge line, 8 degrees of gun depression, that is really respectable. It's much better than the IS-22, which is really good, and pales in comparison to the Russians 5 degrees of gun depression, which is really hard to work any kind of ridge lines in that kind of perspective. Next, mobility wise. 40 kilometer an hour top speed is really good news. It's much better than the Russians, and the ground resistances are not really the best on medium and soft. I mean, yeah, just look at this. On soft, the 7032 is gonna be much, much better, and on top of that, much better on medium as well. So keep in mind, you will need I mean, you actually could use ground surge instead of a turbo, which can be a really valid point in this kind of scenario. But yeah, in terms of the terrain resistances are not really the best. So keep that in mind when you're gonna drive in swamp or anything like that. Next, turret traverse is really good. Tank traverse is really good as well. So yeah, the tank is quite mobile for this kind of how it's called. You have 16 power to weight ratio, so yeah, you're gonna be zooming around the battlefield pretty much for a heavy tank. In the rest of the armor, 101 on the hull is really bad. I mean, um, it's bad and good. If enemies are gonna shoot you in the lower plate, it's gonna be easy. If they're above you, it's gonna be easy pen and everything like that. But once you are gonna use your gun depression, um, your because your armor is so um, angled at this angle, it's gonna be like an auto ricochet if anyone is gonna fire up, um, which is really good. And if you wanna use your gun depression like that, boom. AP and APCRs are gonna ricochet off. Heat is gonna go through in, but actually, what heat will feel like? So even a hit, I mean, good penetration hit are gonna go through, but it's still gonna be a struggle to penetrate this vehicle when it's full down. Well, how can you penetrate this vehicle when it's full down? Well, you have a cupola, but it's not visible when you are seeing the tank like that. 310 if you have a PCRs or maybe heat right in the mantle, but shoot over here with 200. I mean, I have played in my Lorraine 40T and I managed to 4 out of 4 this vehicle while hold down into those ears, just as you have on the E75 TS. So keep in mind, you have to wiggle around your ears so you don't get penetrated in there. Really good weak point in my opinion. I really like how Wargaming balanced that out, and yeah, 304 turret army is really good. I mean, I feel like the turret army is a bit better on the 7032, but once again, you can be overmatched by the 50 millimeter, by the 151 millimeter caliber on the 7032. So keeping that in mind, this vehicle has pretty weak like overall roofs and the back armor, which means pretty much if artillery is gonna hit near you, near your ass, is gonna do like 400, 500 damage. So keep in mind where you park your vehicle when you want to take cover. Make sure your vehicle back is not really exposed to any kind of artillery splashing spots. So keep that in mind. And without further ado, 1500 hit points, it's the same as you have in the Russians. And camo it's a bit better because this vehicle it's a bit slimmer and sleeker. And on top of that, you have 10% fire chance and much better view range than on the Russians. So, how would you equip this vehicle? Personally, a really important thing that I mentioned about grousers, if you're going to use this, just look at the effective top speed on medium. If you're going to use this, boom, you're going to be much quicker and without using the turbocharger or any kind of anything that improves your power to weight, then because the aiming time is really good, you want to increase your dispersion. Actually, you want to decrease your dispersion, and on top of that, you want to put 3% view range. Make yourself much, how to say, much, you know, capable of spotting for yourself. Next to that, what we do have, you have your commander as the radio man, so keep that in mind. You want to put yourself a broad arsenal that it works on any kind of percentage. Maybe situation awareness because this is a premium tank and you can switch your things. So with that you have 421 meters. Because this tank cannot use really an gun rammer, what you want to put is to put your bounty, because yes, now you have what plus and you can demount the bounty for free. Maybe into your survivability slot, and as I mentioned, because the vehicle has really good dispersion, you don't really need the stabilizer. Maybe if you want to make sure that you're really accurate, maybe you want to use it, but yeah, you can put the hardening maybe, or what else do we have over here? What else we should pick? Maybe some view range on top of that, but once again, if you're going to use some cola, then you will not really need to use anything for the view range. So this can be like, I don't know, maybe bounty protection technology, because this tank tends to be amracked, and I mean, yeah, the amrack hit points is like 200, so it's gonna be amrack and it's gonna lose its amrack quite often. So a bounty protection technology can be really good, or maybe like an bounty aiming, so you can be more accurate and snipe, or as some of you might want, using a turbocharger can be good as well. As you can see now, you can go quite quick around the battlefield and easy. So yeah, this is the TS-54. I mean, in terms of mark of excellence, because everyone is playing so good at it, it's almost as good as the Renegade, or even if better. So yeah, the tank is doing kind of a lot of damage on the battlefield, and people are kind of doing really good in terms of this vehicle. So it still remains where I say it's a pay to win tank. I mean, of course, you have to pay a subscription to play this vehicle, and I'll never play the vehicle because I don't pay any kind of subscription. So yeah, I'll not really play with it. But once again, I played tens of battles versus this vehicle, and it doesn't really feel the armor that kind of in that kind of like strong regard. But maybe that's just my opinion. But overall, in terms of the playstyle, overall the gun, it's really solid, and this vehicle can earn you some credits. I mean, because the shell penetration is so bad on AP, you want to use APCRs to make yourself more competitive, which mean they are pretty expensive as well. So 4,400 pop yeah, you're not gonna make those much amount of credits, but once again, this is a premium. You can play another premiums that are possibly better or maybe suitable, like I don't know, anything that you have. So it's not really mandatory to buy this vehicle. Once again, as I mentioned, you buy this vehicle, you buy the subscription for the gold maybe because it is the same amount of what you get, but on top of that, with the subscription, you get uh, the tank on top. You get a point of what I'm trying to say. So without further ado, this was the video for the TS-54, our brand new subscription tank that will shred enemies on the battlefield in no joke. So without further ado, this was the video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you legends in the next one. Bye bye.